Hey guys, welcome to This Week on the Challenge with me, Adrian. Today we're going to be recapping episode 5 of season 35 of the challenge, Total Madness. So we start off with them going back into the house, and it's really just a lot of like filler, I thought, in this first segment. So we get a lot of Bear and Kayla flirting. Mostly Bear flirting with Kayla, but Kayla's not really like pushing him back at this point. And so we see them like flirting while playing with the Ouija board with like two other girls. And at one point while Bear was flirting and they were laughing, I actually saw someone like lift their finger off the board, which I was like, oh my god, this person's cursed. Like, it is not worth it to get cursed while playing the Ouija board in the challenge house. But we also see Bear openly flirting with Kayla again in their bedroom in front of like everybody in the house. So he's really not ashamed to admit that he is attracted to Kayla. I mean, that's even part of his like game in getting her, is just openly telling everyone how much he likes her. And after doing it for like a month straight now, I feel like that's kind of slowly wearing Kayla down. And I think, you know, so Jenna, who is Kayla's good friend in real life and knows Kayla and her boyfriend's relationship, kind of sees that a little bit and sees Kayla kind of laughing at Bear's jokes and entertaining it a little bit. She pulls her aside just to kind of ask her and check in with her to make sure that she's not feeling anything or going to do anything that's going to jeopardize the great relationship that she has out of the show, which I think is so nice because that's really a sign of a true friend. And so points for Jenna. I really like Jenna. I think she's always been someone who's like, you know, fun to have on the show, and now she's proven that she's a really good friend. So more on this Bear Kayla stuff to come later on. Then we get to the Jordan and Wes fight, which honestly I don't even know what they were really fighting about. I think Jordan just made some sort of condescending remark and Wes just really didn't like it. And I think later in the episode, Dee actually says it, which is totally right. She says, you know, they're really just two alphas who are trying to prove who's the biggest alpha. And I think that's why they keep butting heads. So they have a little argument. Tori's just standing there the whole time watching Jordan like a hawk, really trying to make sure that he's not going to get into a fight. And we saw the same thing happen last season where Jordan was antagonizing Turbo and really trying to get him to fight, except this time Turbo really will fight Jordan, except Wes won't. Wes is smarter than getting sent home due to fighting with someone. And so Tori's like really watching him like a hawk, even though she doesn't actually jump in this time because she knows that Wes isn't going to throw a punch or anything. She's always watching. So you know, sucks for her that she constantly has to watch out for her man in these challenges, making sure that he doesn't get into any fights. But, you know, that is the life that she chose. But we also then see Wes go to Dee to ask her whether she thinks that they can rally enough votes to get Jordan into the elimination this season. So really setting up for this Jordan versus Wes rivalry, as opposed to the Johnny Bananas versus Wes rivalry that we've seen in previous seasons. So I definitely think we're going to see this play out further later this season. Then we get to the challenge where we see a sideways car driving down the road, and right away my first thought was, oh my god, I don't want to do that. I mean, I know that's some people's thing, you know, being that adrenaline junkie, but that is definitely not me. But TJ explains the rules. This challenge is called Bomb Squad, and it's going to be played in teams of 4. So the first person is going to be riding in the sideways car, reading off math equations that are hidden on top of the containers through a walkie-talkie to person 2, who then has to solve this equation, run it over to person 3, give the person the number. Person number 3 is supposed to take this number and pick the colored rods that match those numbers, run it to number 4, and then number 4 sticks those colored rods into the detonator. If it detonates, you have the right answer. And so my first thought actually was, who comes up with these challenges? It's like someone said, think of a kindergarten sports day relay, but make it challenge. So I thought that was a ridiculous challenge that they thought about. But team 1 is made up of Jay, Wes, Nani, and Kayla, and Jay is the one that's going to be reading the equations from the car. So right when he starts, he misses that first equation. As a first team, you're at a disadvantage because you don't know like exactly what to look out for, and so they drive right past that container and you see him miss that because he doesn't read it out. When he gets to the end, Wes is like, dude, what's the first equation or what's the first number? And he totally misses it. So right there, they get eliminated, so they don't really even get a chance to play. Then we get team 2, which is Bananas, Bear, Dee, and Tori. Bananas reads out the equation, but Bear misses one of the numbers, and Bear asks him to repeat the equation after he's done, and Johnny's like, dude, I don't have it. Like, I don't remember. You were supposed to pick up the numbers. And so Bear kind of dropped the ball on that one. They got eliminated right away. Then we get to the third team, Maddy, Rogan, Nelson, and Big T. Maddy reads the numbers out beautifully. Rogan solves the equation. He runs it over to Nelson, who starts running like, you know, like a cartoon figure, which I thought was so funny. He runs it over to Big T. Big T sticks it in the bomb, and it does not go off. And while she's running, Rogan thinks about the math that he's doing, 85 divided by 5, and he's like, oh my goodness, it is not 19. I gave them the wrong answer, and so it didn't go off. Team 3 is eliminated. Then we get to team 4, Casey, Swaggy, Josh, and Jenny. Casey gives the equations, Swaggy solves the equation, Josh runs, Jenny runs. They get through it, no problem. So now we have the first team out of 4 teams to complete the challenge. Then we get team 5, which is Melissa, Bailey, Kyle, and Corey. Again, Melissa, who's so cute with a little accent. I mean, I don't really know if it's the best idea to put the person with the accent to read out the equations, but they did. And Bailey solved the equation very quickly as well, ran it over to Kyle and Corey couldn't actually find where to place the rods in the final, which was kind of funny. So that definitely slowed them down for a bit, but they finished the challenge. They had the answer right. Then we get to team 6, which is Fessy, Anissa, Jordan, and Jenna, and they breeze through this challenge. And you know, honestly, like, they didn't actually change the equation for any of these teams, so the answer to the equation was the same for all of them. And as they're watching other teams go, they can clearly see like what color rods each other are using. So I don't know if that was a fluke, like whether the other teams that hadn't gone already knew the answer before they went, but that looked kind of odd to me, because if you already saw what the answer was from previous teams, of course you would solve the puzzle much quicker. So I don't know if they could actually see anything. It looked like they definitely could to me, but hey, I don't know. But at the end of the challenge, the winning team won by only 2 seconds, which was coincidentally team 6. Oops, I meant to say team 4. So now Casey, Swaggy, Josh, and Jenna make up the tribunal. Sorry, it's Jenny, not Jenna. So I thought this was a pretty doable challenge. I mean, it wasn't too physically demanding or too like difficult in terms of puzzles. So I will give it a 4 out of 5. And I would say I would either, I feel like I would be the one to solve the math equation. So that would be my position in this game. Then we go back into the house where we have a little scene of Johnny giving Wes advice on what to do in this game. And he says, you know, basically play dead, play possum. So don't rile anybody up, just kind of float and, you know, try to lay low on everyone's radar and just don't do anything crazy. And I mean, at this point, I feel like it's a little too late for that, given that Wes just got into a fight with Jordan like the previous night, and he's been kind of getting called out by different people, Ashley last week and stuff like that. And so I don't really know if the strategy is going to work going forward, but Wes kicks off the nominations by not voting for Jordan. He votes for Kyle. He burns it on Kyle. And so he's trying to take Johnny's advice of playing dead, but I don't really think like people are going to trust that. People are going to think he's fishy for playing dead, so it's not going to work out well. Then we get Nelson, who voted for Bear because he didn't like what he did last week with the fire extinguisher. And then Bear votes for Jay because, you know, he's a rookie and he doesn't know him very well, I guess. Jordan decides to burn the vote on himself, which he's burned it on someone else in previous weeks because he doesn't want to piss anyone off. And then after that, everyone in the house votes for Jay, which Jay looked so blindsided because Jay actually had a conversation with Jenna before the nomination, and Jenna kind of reassured him that, you know, his name wasn't in anyone's mouths and that they weren't going to vote for him. So Jay really thought that he was going to get the week off of not having to go in his 3rd elimination, but once again, everyone in the house proved how scared they were having to go in and earn their red skull this time. I mean, at this point, Jay is the only guy in the house that's qualified to run this final, which is pathetic given that it's now week 3 and they are all voting him in to go again. So, I mean, I don't think challenge producers really expected the challengers to like not want to go in based on these new rules. I feel like they thought people would be chomping and fighting each other to go into the elimination at this point, but that is not the case because we have now a case of a bunch of scared players. So Jay, unfortunately, is back in the elimination. Next, we get the obligatory bar scene that we've seen in every single episode, except nothing really interesting happened during this bar scene. The thing that came after when they were back in the house was what was interesting. So Bear and Kayla were kind of sitting in the kitchen, flirting a little bit, and Kayla's like, you know what, I can't handle this anymore, I'm going to bed. And so she decides to go like to the bathroom to brush her teeth. Bear follows her, continues to flirt with her in the bathroom, and I guess they had been drinking because Kayla looked like she had a few drinks, and they actually kissed in the bathroom. And Kayla said she didn't know that the cameras caught that, which sucks because if they hadn't caught that, like, would you have said anything? But I mean, it sucks that she had to go home and manage through that in her relationship, although they look like they're still together, Kayla and her boyfriend. But it's gonna suck now in real life that they're having to relive this again, the kiss with Bear. And I mean, I don't know if they continue to hook up for the rest of the season. We'll have to see that play out. But if they do, I mean, that would be it for me in a relationship. Like, it's not one kiss. Like, if you kiss multiple times and you carry out this relationship, like, that is really bad. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Then we get to the tribunal interrogation, which is made up of Casey, Josh, Swaggy, and Jenny. They decide to interrogate Rogan, Nelson, and Wes. So Rogan had expressed to them that he wanted to go in to earn his red skull, especially against Jay, because he was mad that he kissed D and took out CT, but that he only wanted to go in if it was a physical challenge. They decided to put Nelson in because, none of them really felt like they talked any game with Nelson, so they didn't really think that, like, they didn't really feel like they knew him very well or where his head was at, so they were there to really, like, just kind of pick his brain and interrogate him. And then they decided to throw Wes in, which was really Josh's decision, because earlier in the episode they had this little scene where Josh really was going after Wes, telling him like, hey, like, I know you're gunning for me and I'm gunning for you. And it's so funny because Wes kept saying, I don't know who he thinks he is, but he is not on my level. Like, I am not going after him. This is not a thing. Like, we are not rivals in this game. Like, you are here and I am here. But Josh still thinks in his head that Wes and himself are on the same level and that they're gunning for each other, which is so funny in my head because, I totally agree with Wes. I think that Josh is delusional. Josh has not been very good at these games. I mean, even when he did win Big Brother, but honestly on that season he really clung to the second place guy, and that guy was really honestly like the strong player in that house, even though he was super manipulative. And the only reason he didn't win is because he pissed off so many people in that house, so they all voted for Josh by default. And so for Josh to think that he is this huge threat and this big competitor, I mean, I don't know where he got that from, but in my eyes, that's not the truth. And so they get to the purgatory finally, where Josh again comes up with this speech and says, I know that I can take Jay out, but it's not my time. I don't want to do it yet. But dude, if Jay's not even your friend, number one, and you think that he's an easy person to take out, like, I think it would be the best time to go in and get your red skull right there. There's no better person in the house to go against if that's truly what you think. So again, he's scared. And then we get Swaggy, who kind of gives a similar sort of explanation, except he says this time, it's really because Jay is his friend and he doesn't want to get him out, which I honestly understand, because you don't want to take out one of your friends in one of these games. And so, I totally didn't fault Swaggy for that, but they both end up voting Rogan to go into this elimination against Jay. So the elimination is called Fireball, and we've actually seen this being played many times in previous challenges, but it's very physical, which is exactly why Rogan wanted it. And so basically, you're either playing offense or defense, and the person on offense is trying to take this ball and score it in this like can in the middle of the circle, and the person defending is trying to stop him. So you get 3 turns when you're on offense before you rotate and the other person tries. So Jay is first to go on offense. And the one thing I forgot is that instead of this being a normal ball, because they're like crazy this season, it's a ball that's on fire. So they literally have to put on like fire suits or like non-flammable clothing in order to hold this ball, which is, you know, adds another layer of intensity. But honestly, I think it's just too much. Like, the regular game itself would have been fine. Then we get Jay on offense first, and right in that first round, Jay runs up to Rogan. He does his turn to try to get around him. Rogan picks him up and body slams him on the ground, and that is essentially the end of the episode. I mean, we don't even get an ending as to who wins because Jay is hurt, or at least he looks like he's really hurt from that body slam by Rogan. People can't tell whether he has broken his arm, if he, you know, has broken like his rib. He just looks really hurt because it looks like at least like 30 seconds has passed and he hasn't even moved. But I want to say, actually, so I don't know if it was really like the impact of the body slam itself, because it looked bad to me, but honestly the part that looked really bad was when Rogan slammed him down and then he got up, but instead of just like getting up, he pressed Jay's head down into the ground even more to get up. And I feel like honestly that was such a dick move, but it's probably also the part that kind of like hurt Jay a little bit more, at least in my opinion. Like, I rewinded that and watched that a couple times, and it really was like, you know, you're already slammed, it takes the wind out of you, and then someone shoves your head into the ground a little bit more. Like, that has got to hurt. So I mean, they left it at a cliffhanger. We don't know what happened, whether Jay's gonna get back up, whether he's really hurt. But I guess we'll have to see next week. But I did see, you know, so I was trying to look for clues in that interview when they like film it after the show and they're talking about what happened. So Jay obviously has his arms back. So I mean, and this could have been filmed months later, but I don't think that he broke his arms in any way. I hope that he's actually okay and that he actually gets up and beats Rogan in that elimination, because that would be so satisfying to watch Jay take out Rogan, who has been hating on him because he's such a good player this whole game and because he made out with his girl D. So I am so team Jay at this point. Like, I really want him to miraculously get up, beat Rogan at this game, and take him out once and for all, so I don't have to see Rogan on my TV screen ever again. I mean, I know it's probably only for one season that I'm not going to see him, but I would be happy for that. So anyways, that was my recap. Let me know what you think. Let me know. I mean, I don't want you to spoil it if you know what happens. I really hope that Jay gets back up and continues the game and defeats Rogan. But let me know what you think about that rivalry, what you think is going to happen, and your overall thoughts on the episode. So can't wait to hear what you have to say. See you guys next week.